Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Twin Mirror, developed by DONTNOD Entertainment. Sam Higgs was done with Basswood, West Virginia, but it seems like it wasn't done with him. When the former investigative journalist returns to his hometown to say a final farewell to his best friend, it soon becomes clear there are more chapters to be written in his troubled story. Forced to confront his past, Sam finds himself torn between reconnecting with loved ones and using his unique intellectual abilities to uncover the town's dark secrets. But how do you know who to trust when you're not even sure you can trust yourself? The award-winning storytellers at DONTNOD invite you on another twist and adventures. Gripping psychological thriller. Lose yourself in a rich, intricate storyline anchored in a gritty reality of small-town America. As his investigation progresses, Sam will uncover a web of intrigue that winds through Basswood's evocative locations and draws in its colourful residents. Enter an extraordinary mind. The same deductive reasoning and memory visualization skills that made Sam such an accomplished investigative journalist can help him untangle this mystery, reconstruct key elements, revisit his past, and unlock more of the truth buried deep within his unique mind. Choose your own path. Every decision, every interaction, every discovery will influence the direction of Sam's investigation and ultimately determine how much of himself he's willing to sacrifice. There are no right or wrong answers. Just follow your instincts and values and complete your story. And that is Twin Mirror in a nutshell. So I played through this. Pac-Man did not. Well, you've been partial to some of these sort of narrative-based games in the past. Like, obviously, the key ones sort of for us is Walking Dead, Telltale. DONTNOD did Life is Strange and other sort of works.
I was going to ask you, I've heard the developer, I was going to say, what have they done? Right. And to be honest, when you were reading, I know nothing of this game, but that was the vibe I was getting.
Yeah. So, DONTNOD done Life is Strange the first season. I don't know if they did number 2. I think they did. I think they did number 2 as well. They did that awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, which was like a little freebie. They've done that Vampire. I don't know if you remember seeing that on your travels.
I do remember that. Trailer and poster.
Tell Me Why, which came on Xbox. I think it was on Game Pass from the get-go. Twin Mirror. And then that Jusant, they did that as well. That climbing, that little climbing game. And then more recently, they've done Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which came out earlier this year. Which
So does this look and play like any of those?
This is basically a Life is Strange type game. So obviously, like Jusant is a climbing simulator. Banisher's is more got a little bit more exploration and a little bit of action in it. Twin Mirror is Tell Me Why. It's Life is Strange 2, and it's Life is Strange. It's not like Vampire or Jusant or any of those sort of ones. It's like it's in that mould.
From that, then narrative heavy will put you in like an area, house or whatever. You'll have to have so much dialogue, maybe a basic puzzle or two, and then it will move on the story to the next.
Pretty much, yeah. And I guess the kind of key hook they've got with this is that you've got this Sam Higgs character.
Yeah, what is going on with his mind? What's this trick he's got?
Well, so the trick he's got, basically, he can reconstruct. You pick up enough clues in a certain scene or a certain area, he can reconstruct like the events in his mind. So if there's a fight that broke out somewhere and he's sort of coming afterwards, you pick up all the clues and he's like, okay, option 1, person A punched him at the bar, and you can sort of put lock that in as a decision. You know, then they went to this pool table, they spilled over there, or did they carry on at the bar? So which one of those do you choose? Option 2. So you basically get like a couple of choices for like each of these key events, and then you evaluate it, and it'll basically tell you if you're right or wrong. If you're wrong, it'll be like, no, that doesn't seem right. And you're like, okay. And it sort of, so it's got a bit of trial and error to it when you do that. Which, you know, what I would have liked is if they committed to you sort of getting it wrong or just interpreting it differently, and it sort of spun off a different outcome.
Well, that's what it sounds like, doesn't it? In that synopsis, it said like no wrong decisions.
Well, you can't get those wrong because it don't let you. Other than one scenario, and that's again sort of mind-boggling that happens because you get used to it being a certain way, and then suddenly it's like, you get one chance at this, and I was like, what? Why have you not trained me for this? Like, it's like I'll state from the top. This game is very low rating, 61. And
is it one game or is it episodic?
Just one game, yeah. Not even broken up into episodes. You know how they sort of do fake closes? Doesn't do any of that. It's just like a playthrough. I think it took me 5 hours, 5.5.
Oh, so it's quite short then.
Nice and brisk. But yeah, it's not very good, this one, unfortunately. When I first came into it, I was like, it can't really be... Like, how can they have got it that bad? Like, because they're normally pretty well scoring games. Like, but this... No. You know, as soon as you turn it on, like, it's got a PlayStation 5 patch in it, but it runs at 30 FPS. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was a PS4 game. Maybe they didn't patch it. But I looked up and they did. And I was like, well, that's strange. Have I not got the performance mode on? It's like, no, I've got that on. I was like, oh, whatever. Played it and I was like, I'll get used to this. And then like got to like the next scene. It had like a little cut scene and they were talking. Come out and it's at 60 frames per second. And I was like, what? Why is it like silky smooth now? I didn't think anything of it. Anyway, boot the game up the next day. It's at 30 frames. Right. Oh, fuck. Next scene comes in, like next like break, cut scene, come back. It's 60 frames. So for some reason, it's got this weird bug where if you start the game from scratch, like boot it from opening the game, it will put you in 30 FPS locked until you hit like a cutscene. Then it'll be 60 for the rest of your playthrough. So this is one of the very few times.
Can go on for a long time, I'm guessing as well.
Well, they can do, but you know, you might go an hour without hitting one, so you're stuck in that sort of slug mode. And eventually, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use this rest mode, which I never do because I don't trust it. But I was like, that's the lesser of two evils. Like, leave rest mode on, and then the game never shuts down. It just sort of stays cached in the memory. Boot it up. I tried that and it worked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do that. So that was the first sort of thing, and I was like, that's a bit of a weird bug. Then you just got like classic like shit lip syncing, which is a bit of a staple for DONTNOD, but this just seemed particularly bad. Like just minimal effort. I haven't even, it's like it was almost dubbed, and I was like, it's not dubbed, it's set in Virginia, so I know it's not dubbed into English from like a foreign language. It's just they just couldn't be asked to be dealing with it. And yeah, it's just... There's some things in this game, like story-wise, the basic bones of it's okay. Like you go back, you see like your best mate. He's got the main character is a fucking wet wipe to start with. He's a Sam Higgs. He's the biggest loser in the world. He just comes across as, and yet he's got all these sort of powers in his mind. I'm like, I'm not having this. Why is he all clever when he can't even like hold a conversation with someone? But he basically ran away from the town because his girlfriend broke up with him, or no, he ran away because he published an article and it got like the mining community shut down. Everyone turned on him, so he ran off. Then his best friend died 2 years later, so he come back, and like the basic kind of premise of the story is, that death, like car accident, is sort of logged as might not have been a car accident. It's like, was there foul play and whatnot? And that's the sort of basic hook for it initially.
Those miners causing trouble.
Well, got them shut down, didn't he?
Right to shut them down, if anything. Thatcher.
Yeah. She got away with it.
Okay.
Didn't get into a car accident.
I guess I don't really know where I go questioning now, because I think I've got a pretty good overview. Because I feel like these games rely on two things: one, the storytelling. Well, three, the characters, the storytelling, and that the quirk they throw in to kind of gimmick. And it sounds like all of those have been better in games of yesteryear.
They've just been done better, which is fine, but these have just been done poorly in most instances. Like the difference between it not hitting the heights of like a classic and then just not just being like just at a base level entertaining. And like when I first started, I was like, this is not too bad. I really couldn't see it, other than that weird like performance bug. But then as you get like deeper and deeper, it's like, oh fuck, what? It's so disconnected, so disjointed, just weird dialogue, weird interactions, and it's not even trying to be like Twin. I thought it was gonna be like Twin Peaks.
Right.
You know, where things are fucked up and weird, like Alan Wake. Yeah. It's none of that. It literally is what I just described. Like, it's pretty like run of the mill, like small shit town. Everyone's depressed because it's a fucking shithole. No one's happy. Kids are all running. It's like, and then characters that you meet, and your ex-girlfriend ran off with your best friend after you left. So you kind of sort of annoyed at her, but not. He's dead now. So it's like, it's sort of like, what is going on here?
I feel some of these the games I've played from them that is kind of like traits where it's all a bit melancholy. Everyone's a bit sort of like sad and low. They've all done something wrong in their past, and sort of really like weighing them down.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of like you wouldn't want to live here.
No, except they normally have to like they're all set in Seattle, so they've moved it.
No, yeah,
which is nice.
I would have known it was West Virginia. I've not read that, to be honest. Basswood. But there's another weird sort of wrinkle to it that like there's things that just aren't explained. There's no explanation for this sort of mind palace that Sam has, and then there's this like weird, like there's this guy talking to him that no one else can see,
right?
Like giving him advice. I think it looks like Sam with a haircut and glasses. I don't know if it is or not. I didn't bother to look up the voice actor or anything, but he just sort of randomly appears and is like talking to him like, oh, you know, sort of trying to lead you one way or another side or influence you. And I was like, what is this? This is like a few hours into the game. I'm like, I don't even know where this has come from. Like, there's no explanation for this. They kind of go like halfway of sort of dealing with it later on, but they don't set it up. It's just sort of there, and you're expected to just sort of go, oh, yeah. It's just a weird guy that no one else can see, sort of whispering in your ear. I'm like, is he trustworthy? Like, I've got no backstory to this guy. I don't know whether in the past he's influence Sam to be good or get to the right outcome, or whether he's like some devil. Like, you don't get he's been living with this guy for fucking forever, it sounds like he knows him. He's like, oh yeah, shut up. Like, so he's well acquainted, but you as the player sort of sit there and you're like, well, is he trustworthy, or is he just nonsense? So that's another sort of weird sort of thing chucked in for like no reason. And yeah, like there's go on.
It's brisk though, 5 hours. So I'm surprised it sounds like it does outstay its welcome. But
it probably wraps up about right, but it's just that it's not really very engaging.
Yeah,
it doesn't drag on with bloat or whatnot. It kind of makes sense, like beat to beat. I was like, okay, I'm getting there. Here's the climax. Right, it was the climax. It wasn't some fake out like to deal with. You know, sometimes in games, and it's just like, okay. At least it's sort of done now, but it was just this weird, bizarre, you know, cobbled together narrative and characters that I don't think was intentional. It wasn't like fucking like Fargo with all their little weird accents and quirky sort of dark humor. This was like deadly serious, like most of the time. And I was like, it's just this is so tonally weird. Like it's taking me out of it a little bit. And like the wandering around's fine, like you wander around an area, but the clues that you've got to find aren't signposted particularly well. So there's a couple of times when I was sort of doing laps of this like one place, and I was like, where? Like I know, like I know people don't like eagle vision or witcher vision, like when you hold something and it sort of highlights things. But this was like prime example where something like that maybe that little fella goes, oh, let me help you if you're taking too long. Fucking roaring around the same bar for 20 minutes, and then it was just like this small like speck of dirt that barely was highlighted, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, what have we been doing for the last 15 minutes? And then it also committed the cardinal sin of like I made like a dialogue choice, and basically the context was that someone said don't tell so and so about this, and I was like, okay, I won't, that's fine. And then I chose an option which at no point does it indicate it's going to spill the beans on that, but Sam in his infinite wisdom just blurts it out, and I was like, well, that's not what... That didn't really set me up for that. He just sort of added that bit on to like the other decision. So I reloaded that checkpoint. I was like, I'm not having that. not getting tucked up like that. So there's sort of like, when there's like weird choice things that were a bit strange as well. It's just...
I know those frustrations, like when it's not like real gameplay, when you're just stuck because of like poor game design, you're like, I know the answers here, but why have you made it so difficult just to find that next step? And that's all it kind of is, really, isn't it? It's just, it's following the breadcrumbs to then move the story along. It's like, just don't make them this hard.
No. I don't know whether Sam's supposed to have some sort of like, you know, challenge that you're supposed to be aware of, but again, it's not explained, so I don't know. Like, I called him a loser. Someone might be sitting there going, "Oh, actually, he's got this wrong with him," and I'd be like, "Well, it doesn't really indicate that. You just think he's a bit of a wet wipe, and maybe you're supposed to sort of grow him yourself, grow him out of the wet wipe stage, so he can crack this case." But it's just all round a bizarre game. Like, and I'm not really surprised that it scored as sort of badly as it did, getting a 61.
So hang on, you probably should have said this. Why did you play a game that got a 61?
Because, I don't know, I just thought, I've played all the other DONTNOD games. I was like, it can't be that bad. It can't. Because it's just a story, like narrative, like adventure, like they're inoffensive. And to be honest, it is inoffensive, but it's just not very good. It's just one of those ones that are not very good. I'm trying to do like tick off quite a few of the DONTNOD games I missed.
Yeah.
So I remember the year it came out. When it came out with Tell Me Why, I said that was on Game Pass. That came out like a few months before this, and I was like, why is it coming out like the same year? They don't... Two very similar games. Why are they being... There's the cat, sort of making the mascot main event Chester. Wants his dinner. Probably had it already.
Yeah, he's had it.
So yeah, it's just one of those ones, because Tell Me Why came out and is on Game Pass. I sort of chose that at the time and then never went back to this. And I think when I saw the scores, I was like, oh. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to tick... I've done Jusant, and I was like, oh, I'll go back and do the other ones. I knew it was going to be short, and I plan on doing the other bits. I want to get to that Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. So I actually heard good things about that. That's quite interesting. And Vampire, I've got that on PlayStation library somehow, so I can go back and play that one. And then there's one called Harmony Fall of the Riviera. I don't know what that is.
They're prolific then, aren't they? Maybe they just don't be making these sort of games anymore.
No, they've got another one coming out later this year called Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which I think's, you know, I don't know what that is, but they do have quite a varied like portfolio as well. Like Vampire, as I said, isn't Life is Strange, and this is more in that wheelhouse. But then again, Banishes is not Life is Strange. Jusant's not either. So just sort of always liked Life is Strange. I never played Remember Me, which was their first one. It came out on PS3, so it's sort of stranded on there. I think it's on 360, so it might be available on backwards compat, but I remember that being not very well thought of as well. But I don't know, I thought I'll just sort of do a little project of ticking off old DONTNOD games, and this was the time the place popped up, so I just went for it, and we ended up with Twin Mirror and Sam Higgs and his little brain roaring around Basswood.
Right, anything else on Higgs then before we give him a score?
No. One strange thing I noticed is that the sound quality is not very good. Like the caption of the voiceovers sounded like shit. Like in some instances, it sounded like a bit echoey, like almost like it was done in a toilet or something. And I was like, it's only some of the lines as well. And I was like, are they just like... I suppose COVID would have been going on, but you'd have thought all the voice stuff would have been done by the time the game shipped, but maybe they had to do a few pickup lines like remotely. And it's just like this complete like cacophony of just weirdness, this game. Like half-baked ideas, like half-baked characters, half-baked sound, weird technical issues that only occur when you reboot the game up each... It's just like, I don't know how this ended up in this state. But it was like on offer for like £5.40. So
yeah,
it's one of those games that I thought that it was never going to go on offer, because some of those like older games that don't sell anymore, they're like, there's no point because no one's going to... I must have been the only person that bought it, I reckon. I can't imagine anyone else went out to do it, but no, that's enough for Twin Mirror. It doesn't really... The audience don't need to have another 20 minutes of me rambling over it. Okay,
we're at the gallery.
Yes.
This is interesting because we have got that self-storage. Are we opening the self-storage?
Well, yeah, it's one of those... It's definitely a contender for that. I've had very little positive to say about it. Some games I like make notes and do like little plus and minuses of things I like. I just brought it up to see what pluses I had. There's not one plus on this list. There's only like half a dozen things on there. They're all minuses. Look, main character Sam is such a wet wipe, so that's installed into like my brain at some point. I had to just say it. So this is absolutely going the self-storage, which I don't like to use, but sometimes you just get these games, and yeah, definitely a low point for for like DONTNOD and these narrative-based games. So self-storage in the car park for Twin Mirror.
Fucking hell. Is that the first game you put in there?
No, I've put in the Division 2's expansion pack. Me and Logan both put that in. And then last year, Little Nightmares Complete Edition, got really fucked off with the DLC on that. I think you might have been sitting on there with me where I went absolutely mad. And then AW Fight Forever, which was just an embarrassment to the brand. So that got put in self-storage as well.
Bloody hell.
So that wasn't self-storage back then, actually. It was just frozen out. Just left
I think that's what's throwing me, because you've changed it.
Yeah. I think we're on a final form now. Got the galleries with the platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and self-storage if you didn't like it. And the botchling bin if you didn't finish it. Rage quit. So that's that. But nothing else to say really on Twin Mirror. I think it is what it is. The audience would have understood where I'm coming from and understand my opinion. I guess for you, you're going to wait for it to go on sale and then dive in so you can go for the Sam Higgs adventure.
No.
Didn't get him a sale then. They'd got 2 in the last year then at least. One for me, one for you. But if people are really curious, you can do it. But you've really got to be just curious about these types of games, which I know people aren't generally. You know, people that don't like these games, this is not one of the ones you'd hang up and say, oh, you should just play this one because it's really good. It's like, no, you have to really, really just want to commit to it. Otherwise, it's a bit of a blow. But Twin Mirror, self-storage. So we'll leave it there, I think. Shut it down for another episode. Thanks for your help, Mr. Adcock. And
no problem.
As usual, we'll see everyone on the other side. Ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.
Hello there, Adkins here for Dimp Digital. This is my review for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Again, late to the party on this one. Played this one after playing the Intergrade Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC. Just topping myself up, ready for Rebirth. This is a PSP game that was sort of the branched out collective lore of Final Fantasy VII. Remastered, so they claim, but it's more of a remake. And yeah, that's been upgraded a bit for the PS5 users. And yeah, I played through it. Graphically, it's been a very enhanced. It sort of mirrors some of the sort of earlier PS4 remake style graphics. It sort of bumps it up a nice little notch. When you watch some YouTube comparisons to how it looked, it really does look sort of night and day difference. But they still sort of kept the same foundations and how the game looked and how the game plays out. They didn't change that too drastically. But yeah, this sort of follows the character of Zack, who is a sort of side character, but quite an important one for the Final Fantasy VII game / lore. Yeah, enjoyed my time with this one. but it very much did feel like an old PSP game. The way it played, it did remind me a lot of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, how it's sort of, the missions were set into sort of like bite-sized chunks, segments, very linear game. This is after what's quite after playing something like Final Fantasy 16, which is a very open game, very big, wide, open, sprawling areas. Certainly with Final Fantasy 15 as well, that was fully open world. This one, yeah, is very linear, very small maps and in bite-sized chunks. So it has that sort of portable feel. It probably would have been better to play this on something like a Switch or Steam Deck or something like that, because it does have that sort of pick up and play a couple of bits and put down. Story was pretty cool though, yeah, just sort of weaving in and out. It does get a bit confusing, keeping on timelines and all this, but managed to keep strong. Characters, again, that's really what pushes these Final Fantasy 7 games into the upper echelon, is these characters. They're always fleshed out and great characters. Combat was pretty standard. Again, you had it did feel watered down compared to the real big daddy of Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Final Fantasy 16. This was a very you could tell it was a remake of an old PSP game, and that's what detracted a bit for me. Just in certain cutscenes, not cutscenes, but more sort of conversations throughout the game and certain actions that your character would do, it just had that very lower tier aspect of it. And yeah, there was just a plethora of not side activity, but they had these little missions that you could go and do. They're little bite-sized, literally, I mean bite-sized. There's some missions that take you like 20 seconds to complete. They start to build up and get harder in difficulty. And I believe they start to stretch out. I've done about just under 30% of these. There are hundreds and thousands of them. And yeah, they're there for the completionists. But to be honest, they're just very samey, mundane. Go through a little map, collect some chests, and kill enemies on the way, and the bosses. And yeah, after listening to Apps's review, I wholeheartedly agree that the best feature of the game is if you do start to struggle and you lose a battle, it not only lets you restart the battle from the beginning of the fight, and you don't have to go through cutscenes and rigmarole, but it also lets you change your sort of out what your forgetting the word here, what your sort of weapons are and stuff. Yeah, so if you feel like your material's not great, and if you haven't got the right one equipped, and you really need to change that to get through this battle that you're on, it gives you the option for that. So you can restart the battle and change all the equipment that you have and start again with a bit of a different outcome. There's a word for that. Loadout, that's the bloody word. So yeah, it lets you change your loadout. And yeah, that was a brilliant experience. It had this weird sort of like slot machine, almost like a sort of special that's constantly going throughout the battle system. And it will certainly, the random things it will learn on there. It will land on like a slot machine. You get 3 in a row, and you sort of gain these characters throughout the game, and you get an extra, like a summon, or it'll be a major character from the game, and it implements that. That was quite fun, but I've never seen that in a game before, so it's not something that obviously is going to be stuck around, and other games have implemented it, but a unique one at that. But yeah, decent enough game. Nice and short again, wasn't spending too many hours on this. This is like a 15 hours tops, unless you really want to go through all those little mini missions. You're probably spending another 20-30 hours on that, to be fair, but that's up to you. But yeah, decent enough, but did very much feel like a PSP game remastered. So again, therefore, I will give this game a silver. Thanks for your time, and ta-da.